In this tutorial we're looking at the XML workflow, which is very similar to the AAF workflow when you're sending an edited timeline from one application to DaVinci Resolve. I happen to be looking at Premiere Pro here. Now once your edit is done, all you need to do is basically select the timeline and then go to File, Export, AAF or Final Cut Pro XML, and then follow the on-screen directions to be able to do that. Now that's very straightforward. Let me just click Final Cut Pro XML, saves the project, says where do you want to save it. You can see I've already saved one. Okay, so I've already got one, but there is something else that is sometimes missed when it comes to creating a project and moving it from one application to another. What you also want to produce is a reference movie of your timeline, because whilst you've built up a timeline, it's perfectly possible that you have done something in Premiere Pro that doesn't translate properly to the other application. So if you render a low quality timeline so that you can use that as a reference file inside the other application, as you go between clips once they've linked in the other application, you can make sure that the sizing and all those important things are identical between the two applications. Okay, so it's important not just to export the XML but also to export the reference movie that can then be used. Okay, so I am now going to go to DaVinci Resolve, which is just here. And I'm going to create a new project for this one, so I'm not going to use the one that I was previously showing you from scratch. I'm actually going to go to this little house icon down here, which brings me back to the ability to create a new project. So I'm just going to go New Project, and I'm going to save the one that I've got, and I'm going to call this one the OTE Color XML. Okay, so it's an XML workflow just for demonstration purposes. Create that, and it's an empty timeline. Now I don't need in the same way to worry about all those settings that we did last time. There are some things I'm going to want to go into in a minute, but let's just start off by importing the XML. And you can import the XML both in the edit page and the media page. You can do it in both. You simply go to File, Import AAF EDL XML. So if you've exported an AAF, this is the same way you'd import it. So I'm going to click that, and I'm going to navigate to my XML, which is in my folder. So there it is, and I'm going to double click to open it, and this box is telling me all about it. So the source file, import the timeline's name, what is the master timeline start code, so it's going to start at an hour, but really this is the important one that we want to look at. It says automatically import source clips into the media page. So basically we're setting the whole thing up. Notice by the way that the timeline resolution is set up, and also the timeline frame rate grayed out. I can't get to that again. It's set up by the information that's coming in through this XML. So all I need to do at this stage is click OK. And it says, well look, I can't find any of the clips. Well, that's because I've moved them from one machine to another, or I've moved them around. So I say, do you want to select another folder to search? Yes, I do. And then I need to simply go and find them. Now I know where they are, so I'm just going to quickly navigate to them. They're under the ProRes 422, and I'm going to click OK. And then bang, there's my timeline. Shift Z, by the way, maximizes your timeline view. Everything in there is completely as inside, but I need to double check, which means I do need to have that reference movie. Now I'm going to show you the reference movie workflow. It doesn't always work, so let me just show you how you can get around it if the official workflow doesn't work. So I want a new bin, so I'm going to right click on the master and I'm going to add a new bin, and I'm going to call this one reference. However, I'm not going to import the footage here. I'm going to show you how to import it from the media page. So if you go to that media page, you'll see that you've got the reference bin here, and I need to go and find that footage, which happens to be in the main folder here. Here it is, and I've got an HD and a UHD version. Unfortunately, neither of these work properly. I don't really know why, but I can show you an alternative workflow. The way that you add these is different. You don't just click and drag them down, or right click and drag them down. Instead, you right click and you're looking for this, add as offline reference clip. Okay, when you click add as offline reference clip, notice it's got this little icon. sort of checkerboard icon, telling Resolve this is not something that you're going to put in a timeline, this is something that is just there for reference only. Once you've done that, you actually need to link it to one of your timelines. Okay, now we've only actually got one timeline, so on the master, if we go down, we can actually find there's a timeline. Here's a timeline here. Now I haven't got a timeline bin, so what I could do if I wanted to, if you remember I showed in the last tutorial, DaVinci Resolve, Preferences, User, Edit, and right at the bottom, or second from the bottom, you've got Create Smart Bin for Timeline. When I do that and I click Save, notice I've actually got a smart bin for the timeline, which makes it a little bit easier in fact. So there's my actual timeline. It's still, by the way, in my master bin, so if I was to go all the way to the bottom, there's the timeline, it's still there, but it's also individually available just as timelines inside these timeline bin. Now all I need to do is right click on it, and then at the top I've got timelines, and I've got link offline reference clip, and at the moment none have been linked, but I've got this one that says UHD reference, the one I want to reference, so I'm going to click that one to actually link it. Now theoretically, when I go to my edit page, I should be able to see it when I click this drop down. So drop down below the source monitor. Okay, so this is the trimming panel where I can see the original source. Now if I go down to offline, I should be able to see it, but as you can see, I can't see it. It's not actually worked. So how do I overcome it if it's not worked? I should basically, as I pull through, these two should be linked together. There is another way of doing it, and this time what you need to do is not use this as a reference clip. Instead, import it normally. So I'm going to right click on reference, I'm going to import media, and I'm going to go and find that same clip, and I'm going to open it, and this has brought it in as not as a reference clip but as a standard clip, and I'm going to double click it to open it inside of the source monitor. What I want, however, is to be right at the very beginning, and you can tell you're at the beginning because you've got this little icon here, and that's what I want to be. And notice also in the timeline I am right at the beginning, so you can see for both of them I am absolutely at the beginning. I'm going to shut down my media pool at this stage. If I click a media pool, click the word media pool, I've now got full screen view, and I'm going to go to the panel menu. So here's a little panel menu, here's my options. If I click that, you'll notice the top one says Gang Viewers. So if I click Gang Viewers and I was to click play, you'll see that they're pretty much the same. Okay, and if I use the up and down arrows now, I can go between all of my clips and just make sure that they're absolutely identical. So there's no sizing options, no difficulties from that. Okay, they don't play perfectly. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, but you do have the option to use J, K and L. So L to play forwards. Remember L push again, it's a bit quicker. L press again, it's even faster. Okay, K to stop, and then you can use your up and down arrows. So if you're at all worried, you can go up and down the timeline to have a look at all these various clips. Okay, and as long as they all match, everything's matched, yes, I'm happy with that. So I can now go back to my media pool and I can delete these. Just select them and hit delete. Are you sure? Yes, I don't need them in my project anymore. So I've just got my main timeline here. I can turn off my media pool, and what I can also do at this stage is I can go to a single viewer. This button here takes me to a single viewer, and now what I want to do is get ready for my color edit. Now to do that, I'm going to take advantage of a setting that I showed you in the previous one through this little toggle, this little cog button here. If I click on that and I go down to color management, remember I want this from color science, DaVinci YRGB down to DaVinci YRGB color managed. Okay, so I've done that, and also in one of the other settings we did, which is on the master settings, I wanted to change my optimized media to DNxHRSQ. My render cache was also going to be the same because that's all I needed for what I was going to do. I think that's pretty much everything that we needed to worry about. Yep, that's everything that we needed to worry about. Oh, I'm also going to take this to 3 seconds. There we go, 3 seconds. Now I'm going to click Save, and I'm going to go back to the media panel. So here's the media page, in fact, and I'm going to go back to my master bin, and I'm now going to select all the video clips. I'm going to select that one, and then I'm going to shift select all the way down to there, so all the video clips. right click on any one of them and look for this important option, Input Color Space. Now, do you know the camera that this was shot on? Now, I do happen to know the camera that this was shot on. It was shot on an ARRI Alexa, and it was shot in log, so it's going to be ARRI log C. Now, this is not a lookup table. Okay, this is actually Resolve's color management, which using this gives you the ability to grade independent, if you like, of a LUT. A LUT is a mathematical box, and when you apply it to a clip, if it clips stuff, it's gone. Whereas if you use color management, you can avoid the issues of having to grade over and under LUTs and all the problems that that can cause. So all I need to do is change the input color space to ARRI log C, and suddenly you can see the clips have come to life. So if I now go to the edit page and I go up and down through my clips, you can see that all those clips have come to life, and I haven't used a LUT. All I've used is color management, which has allowed me to define the camera and the format that was used to record it, and all those clips are now ready to grade. Also, just popping back to the media page with those all selected, I want to show you this. If you right click on this now, again, notice that you can also generate optimized media. So if your timeline isn't playing back very quickly and you want to sort of move to a quasi proxy mode, you can actually use the optimized media that we set up before when we did the project settings. So we did DNxHR SQ. So if I now did generate optimized media, all of these clips would have optimized media generated, which would play back a lot quicker. I'm not going to do this, but I am also going to show you the other one, which was to do with render cache. So again, if things are playing back and you add lots of effects and you want them to play back a lot quicker because things are going slowly, you can also go to playback and you've got the render cache and you can choose smart. And when you do that, if there is a problem, you can see there's a couple of things here where it's red. If you lead it, you see that's gone to blue. I know it's ever so small, but if that one's actually going to blue as we watch. So any problems, they will go from red to blue as it actually generates a render cache in the format that you choose. Okay, so these are some of the settings that we've set up being able to move forward. So that's how you can get everything ready for your color grade. You've imported everything, you've imported the XML. You can still, if you want to, go in and actually change and do smart bins and what have you. But at this stage, I'm assuming that what you want to do next is to go into the color page. And when you go into the color page, here is the timeline. Timeline ready for you to move through. Okay, so you can see all of your clips, and you can go through those with the up and down arrow. So select one and go down the timeline, or up to go back up the timeline. You've also got the timeline down here where you can click between the various items. Okay, so the whole timeline is shown down here, whereas the clips obviously go off screen. You can turn these on and off with the buttons at the top, so turn the timeline on and off, turn the clips on and off. You can turn on and off galleries and what have you, so you can actually get a better look at what you're going for. And then you can actually start the process of grading, but one of the most important things, of course, is to see your scopes. They're found down here, and you can choose which scope you want to look at, so the waveform scope or the parade scope, or if you like the vector scope, depending on what you want to look at. And there are settings for each of these, by the way. So if you want to make these things brighter or smaller or whatever you want to do, you can actually make the whole thing a lot more obvious. You could even show skin tones if you like. Okay, so you've got all of these settings you can go with, and so you can actually begin to do your, in fact I'm going to go for parade, you can actually begin to do your grading. Now obviously in this particular clip I don't want to particularly move my darks down, but I might want to move my gamma. So you can see my darks are nice and dark, my lights are nice and light, you can see my blacks are getting fairly black, but I might say in my gamma over here, we might want to just pull that down to sort of increase it, or maybe even just go straight for the contrast tool, reset that one, and just increase the contrast. Okay, so you're ready to start grading. This is not a grading tutorial, I'm not going to go beyond that, but that is very simply getting an XML in, generating optimized media, using the render cache, and being able to move forward. One final thing I will show you, just because it's useful, is when you get to this stage here, you can also go to the list view and give every clip a separate name. Okay, so if we just choose one of the clips, let's just actually go to the icon view and choose one of the car clips. So here's the car clip. If I choose the car clip, well, who's come out the car, so let's choose that one there. So choose it. You can, if I go to icon view, you can add something called a display name. Now you can't see a display name here. You actually have to go to view and you have to show display name. And then you need to be able to see the display name. Now to be able to see it, you actually need to right click in the option up here, right click, and you'll see right up top it says show display name. You can turn any of the others off if you like. So let's say I don't need to know the format, the video codec and the audio codec because I already know those. I don't need audio channels because I know what they are. I happen to know what the resolution is and the frames per second are, and I can leave all the rest in place. Don't need date modified. So you can see I'm turning things on and off, but you'll see here is display name. You can change the display name. So I can put Mikey leaving car, and that's actually a display name. And because I had done view show display names, okay, make sure show display names is ticked. For some reason it's off again, but view show display names, it's actually view show display names is actually selected. Now when I go to my edit page and I find that particular clip and I was to zoom in, Mikey leaving car, and if I go to my color page and I find that clip, which is here, at the moment I can't see it, but you see where it says Apple ProRes 422, click it, Mikey leaving car, click again, okay, it shows you if you've done multiple versions basically. So double click goes between three different options. First one being the format, second one display name, third one the number of versions you've done. Okay, so that's how we can see those. I have actually seen one other thing I'd like to very briefly talk about, and again I'm going to do Shift Z to show you this clip here. Now this clip here, and I'm going to zoom right in so you can see, is a clip that's actually got half and half to be able to link with something else, the clip underneath. To see the properties of a clip, you select it, and bear in mind I'm in the edit page now, and you go to inspector, and the inspector shows you the properties that can be animated for a clip. I don't want to animate anything, but notice there is a cropping section, and if I crop left and I pull this across, you'll see that I am seeing the clip below until they just touch. Just don't want to go too far, just there perhaps. There you go, and you can actually see I'm seeing the clip below. Notice this has gone red, so it's waiting for a render cache. After 3 seconds of doing nothing, you can see the blue is telling me it's rendered it in the background, so that should now play back nice and easily.
I'd be scared out here in the woods.
Okay, so that's setting up everything for use inside DaVinci Resolve. I hope you found these tutorials really useful, and you'll enjoy using the color pack from EditStock. My name's Andrew Davis, and thank you very much for watching.